The void stretched infinitely, a canvas of darkness pierced by scattered stars and drifting debris from 1,000 forgotten worlds. Amid this emptiness, a sleek human warship glided silently, its hull polished to a mirror sheen, reflecting the cold brilliance of distant suns. Alien eyes across the galaxy had never witnessed such a vessel. Its proportions defied their expectations, neither monstrous nor fragile, but commanding in a quiet, calculated authority. Sensors flickered across the ship's surface, reading an intelligence they could not comprehend. Humanity had arrived not with fanfare or submission, but with a presence that radiated both precision and intent, as the human crew moved through the corridors. Each step resonated with purpose. Lights pulsed gently along the walls, synchronized with the subtle hum of the engines, a heartbeat of calculated energy. Outside, sensors scanned the alien sector, and the crew observed not just with instruments, but with a sense that transcended technology, a combination of instinct, strategy, and moral clarity that no AI could replicate. The stars themselves seemed to pause as the warship cut through the void, a solitary figure of defiance against the chaos of the unknown. In orbit around a barren world, an alien observation vessel detected the human ship. Its hull was scarred from countless skirmishes, a testament to survival and endurance, yet its sensors were faltering. Its crew awed. They expected fragile creatures, weak and easily subdued, yet these humans moved with patience, understanding, and a calm readiness that spoke of a culture honed not for submission, but for survival against impossible odds. Their minds raced to interpret the human behavior, yet each calculation fell short, disrupted by an unpredictable courage and moral depth they had never encountered. Time stretched as the two ships regarded one another. The human warship did not advance aggressively, nor did it retreat, it simply existed, a paradox of strength and restraint. Alien crews whispered among themselves, their language a flurry of clicks, hums, and signals, attempting to decode intentions that could not be reduced to logic. And in that silence, in the vast chasm of space, the first lesson became clear. Humanity did not wait for permission to exist, and it did not bow to expectation. In the control chamber, a captain surveyed the display, noting the alien vessel's approach. Every decision, every course adjustment, spoke not only of tactical genius, but of an understanding of the moral weight of choice. The humans did not seek domination for its own sake, they acted with the knowledge that power carried responsibility. Outside, cosmic dust shimmered like distant fireworks, a backdrop to the quiet tension of first contact. It was not fear that the alien sensed, but something far more potent, the unyielding certainty that humans could shape the course of any encounter. And that no assumption of weakness could hold against them, and so, the void held its breath, waiting for the next movement, while the human warship glided forward, calm, deliberate, and impossibly resolute. Its presence alone challenged centuries of assumptions, a reminder that even across the infinite expanse, humanity's spirit could not be predicted, tamed, or ignored, and so, the stars learned to fear the sound of a human heartbeat. The alien vessel trembled as the human warship closed the distance, not with haste, but with the steady inevitability of a tide that reshapes coasts over centuries. Sensors flared, attempting to read patterns, to predict maneuvers, but each calculation faltered under the weight of human ingenuity. Humans did not act according to algorithms or rigid protocol, they adapted, improvising with a rhythm born of experience, intuition, and an unshakable confidence in their own judgment. Inside the ship, the crew worked with a quiet intensity. Hands moved over controls, calibrating shields and weapon arrays with precision, yet the atmosphere was not one of panic, it was one of focus. Every crew member understood the stakes. First contact was not merely about survival, it was a demonstration of humanity's capacity to command respect across galaxies. The air seemed to hum with unspoken understanding, a synchrony of minds and purpose that was as alien to observers as the stars themselves. The alien vessel hesitated. Its weapons powered, engines thrummed, but there was a visible pause in its calculated aggression. They had anticipated a frantic, desperate opponent, perhaps even one who would submit in the face of overwhelming power. What confronted them instead was composed, methodical, a force that radiated mastery over self as much as over technology. The human's readiness was not fueled by anger or fear, it was rooted in a deep understanding that every action carries consequence, every choice a moral dimension as significant as the tactical one. A distant sun cast sharp angles across the barren planet below, illuminating the human ship's hull in streaks of gold and silver. Reflections danced over alien sensors, creating illusions of multiple vessels where only one existed. It was a subtle deception, not of trickery, but of strategic brilliance, the human ability to turn perception into advantage without aggression, to command the narrative of a confrontation without firing a single shot. The alien crew, for all their superior numbers and firepower, found themselves ensnared in calculations that failed to account for ingenuity beyond raw force. Inside the control chamber, the captain observed every detail with calm authority. Decisions were made in milliseconds, yet every movement spoke of foresight measured in hours, days, and years of training. Tactical displays illuminated the room with soft blues and greens. A visual language of control and clarity. Outside, the stars stretched into streaks as sensors measured velocities, trajectories, and gravitational shifts, but still the human warship maintained a quiet dominance, a reminder that power without discipline is chaos, but discipline without audacity is merely stagnation, and in that tense stillness, the first true understanding crossed the alien minds. Humans were not a species to be underestimated. They were adaptive, intelligent, and morally centered in ways that defied conventional warfare logic. The realization was immediate, visceral, and terrifying in its implications. This was not an encounter to be survived, it was a confrontation that would redefine expectation. And so, the universe began to learn that humanity's calm was more dangerous than its fury. The vacuum of space seemed to thrum with anticipation as the human warship adjusted its course, not with aggression, but with deliberate intent. Its silhouette cut across the starfield like a blade of light, precise and unwavering. Alien observers attempted to anticipate its maneuvers, running endless simulations, yet every prediction collapsed under the subtle ingenuity that humans wielded effortlessly. Every adjustment, every slight shift in trajectory, suggested a species that thought in layers, tactically, ethically, and with an almost uncanny anticipation of its adversaries' expectations. Inside the ship, the crew moved with a choreography of quiet competence. Fingers danced over controls, screens flickered with data streams, and subtle vibrations of the engines echoed like a heartbeat. Here, strategy was married to instinct. Humans did not merely react, they calculated, improvised, and adapted, combining centuries of knowledge with the raw intuition that only comes from surviving countless unknowns. Each crew member understood the enormity of what first contact meant, not just survival, but the assertion of humanity's presence, intellect, and moral depth against the void of the unknown. The alien vessel's sensors scrambled. For the first time, the attackers felt uncertainty, a terrifying sensation. Uncharacteristic of a race that prided itself on precision and control. They had imagined humanity as fragile, adaptable only in limited scenarios, yet these bipeds moved with a grace and decisiveness that seemed to violate every expectation. Subtle manipulations of their energy signatures created an illusion of multiple vessels, a psychological ploy as devastating as any weapon. Their calm dominance was not arrogance, it was the quiet assurance of a species that knew the value of patience, perception, and principle. Beyond the viewport, the blackness of space was punctuated by distant suns, their light bouncing across the polished hull of the human warship. Reflections fractured and multiplied across the alien sensors, creating confusion, hesitation, and doubt. Within the alien ranks, calculations collided with reality. No algorithm could fully anticipate a species that combined ingenuity, unpredictability, and an ethical core into every action. Every decision made by the humans carried a weight that transcended mere strategy. It was the silent declaration that intelligence, adaptability, and moral consideration were their true weapons. In the control chamber, the captain studied the alien movements with unwavering focus. Every possible threat had been evaluated, yet the humans retained flexibility unmatched by any machine. Choices were made with care, but also with audacity, striking a balance between caution and boldness. The crew worked in harmonious precision, their collective awareness extending beyond technology, into realms of intuition and foresight. They were not just controlling a ship, they were asserting a presence, a proof that humanity's reach extended far beyond the planets of their origin, and in that tense ballet of light and shadow, of strategy and instinct, the alien observers finally comprehended the truth. These humans were not merely combatants, they were architects of consequence. Their calm, methodical confidence shattered assumptions, defied conventions, and planted a seed of awe and fear, and so, the cosmos began to recognize that humanity's brilliance was as unyielding as it was unpredictable. And even the stars themselves felt the weight of a species unwilling to be underestimated. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport, a silent witness to the confrontation unfolding in the void. The human warship glided through the black expanse with unhurried precision, each movement deliberate, calculated, yet alive with the subtle unpredictability that made humans so dangerous. Alien vessels flanked them in numbers and firepower, but each one faltered against a force that seemed equal parts intellect, instinct, and unshakable resolve. The humans did not rush, they orchestrated, their actions resonating like a symphony of strategy across the vacuum of space, inside the ship. The crew moved as one, their synchronization uncanny, almost preternatural. Displays hummed with streams of data, shields adjusted seamlessly to the shifting energies of the alien attack, and the ship's engines whispered a quiet power that belied their destructive potential. Every decision, every command, was tempered by a profound understanding that survival was not enough. Humanity would assert its ingenuity, its moral depth, and its right to exist unbowed. The ship itself became an extension of the crew's consciousness, responding to instinct as much as calculation, bending physics and perception to the will of its human pilots, the alien commanders, once confident in their superiority. Now reeled under the weight of an unexpected truth. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not rely solely on overwhelming firepower or technological might, they integrated creativity, intuition, and an ethical awareness that turned each encounter into a complex tapestry of decision and consequence. The alien system strained, unable to parse the layers of thought behind the humans' maneuvers, their predictions unraveling with every subtle adjustment of the human ship's trajectory. Beyond the battle, the void itself seemed to respond. Streams of cosmic dust glimmered as the human vessel passed, distant nebulae casting fractured light across the hull, painting it with a spectral beauty that defied the terror of the encounter. The human's presence was not only tactical, it was symbolic. Each calculated movement, each silent decision, radiated a message: humanity would endure, would adapt, and would impose its will not through blind aggression, but through mastery of knowledge, morality, and courage. In the command chamber, the captain observed every flicker of alien hesitation, every miscalculated maneuver, with calm assurance. Decisions flowed seamlessly, a network of human thought and intuition operating in harmony. Even as the alien fleet tightened its formation, the human subtle manipulations of energy fields, sensor signatures, and tactical positioning sowed confusion, fear, and doubt. They had no need to strike immediately. The demonstration alone sufficed to establish dominance, and then, in a moment suspended between action and silence, the alien command realized their misjudgment. Humanity was not merely a species, they were an idea made flesh, a testament to the power of intellect, courage, and ethical resolve. Their calm was more formidable than any weapon, their foresight a shield no technology could breach, and their ingenuity a force that would echo across the stars. And so, the galaxy began to understand that humans were not to be underestimated, that even in the cold expanse of space, the quiet confidence of one species could shift the balance of power among the cosmos. The alien fleet quivered with the first stirrings of doubt. Their sensors struggling to reconcile human behavior with their expectations. What they had assumed to be simple, predictable bipeds revealed layers of strategy, intuition, and improvisation that no algorithm could fully anticipate. Every human maneuver was both deliberate and fluid, a living puzzle that confounded enemy calculations while asserting dominance without a single overt act of violence. In that void, humans had transformed movement itself into a weapon, subtle, inexorable, and impossible to ignore. Inside the ship, the crew's calm focus was almost hypnotic. Fingers traced over holographic panels, commands whispered into the ship's systems, and screens shimmered with data streams manipulated into patterns the aliens could neither decipher nor anticipate. The humans moved as one, a collective mind stretched across the bridge, yet each individual contributed instinct, experience, and moral judgment. Their actions spoke to something deeper than strategy, a profound understanding that intelligence was inseparable from conscience, and courage inseparable from foresight. Outside, the cosmic battlefield became a theater of human ingenuity. Energy signatures twisted, deflected, and shimmered to suggest multiple vessels where there was only one. The alien fleet responded with blinding force, but their attack struck nothing. They were chasing shadows woven from human cunning. The stars themselves reflected this struggle, distant suns casting fractured glows that danced across the hull of the human ship, turning it into a phantom of brilliance in the darkness. The humans did not need to attack, they controlled perception, psychology, and momentum in a way that rendered the enemy's might ineffective. In the quiet of the command room, the captain observed the ripple of hesitation spreading through the alien ranks. Even the most seasoned officers, trained in fear and precision, were now unmoored by the humans' audacity and subtlety. Humanity's strength was not only technological but philosophical, a combination of patience, adaptability, and unwavering moral certainty that could bend circumstances to its favor. Decisions were made, not with recklessness, but with foresight, not with intimidation, but with the quiet assurance that humans belonged in this theater of stars. The aliens, once confident in their superiority, began to fracture under the weight of the unexpected. Their formations faltered, their calculations unraveled, and the realization dawned too late. These humans were not merely combatants, they were architects of consequence, and every action carried the depth of foresight, ethics, and ingenuity. The battlefield became a testament to human resilience, a proof that even against overwhelming odds, intellect and courage could redefine the rules of engagement. And so, in the silent stretches of the cosmos, a human presence left its mark, not in the destruction wrought, but in the awe and fear inspired by a species that understood that the truest power lies in the mastery of mind, morality, and indomitable will. The stars themselves seemed to shift, acknowledging that a new force had arisen, a species that could not be underestimated, for they were humans, and they were unstoppable. Here is part 5, written in the same cinematic, atmospheric, HFY narration style with no headings, no dialogue labels, no commentary, just pure narrated sci-fi. The alien station's transformation was complete. What had once been a fortress now resembled a colossal chrysalis of interlocking plates, each one glowing with alien script that writhed like living fire. Energy veins pulsed across its surface, converging toward a central aperture that began to spiral open like the iris of some ancient celestial beast. Astrius drifted before it, battered yet unbroken, its hull steaming, its lights flickering with stubborn resolve. Across every deck, the crew felt the same pressure, the same gravity in their chests, as if the universe itself held its breath. The station unleashed its voice, not sound, but a tidal wave of consciousness, pressing into human minds with the force of an entire species' memory. Images poured in, wars fought long before stars had settled into their orbits, civilizations rising and falling like sparks in the void, entire galaxies scarred from weapons that bent physics until it snapped. The presence revealed the truth they had resisted since the war began. The artifacts humanity discovered were not ancient wonders, they were the remnants of a cosmic mistake, tools forged by something older than stars, something that had once consumed galaxies in its hunger for expansion. Humanity, unknowingly, had reached out and touched those remnants, studied them, incorporated their logic into their technology. And the universe had reacted exactly as it always did to that pattern. By raising armies to stop it before it grew, the station intensified the vision, showing a world burned hollow, vacuums sucking across broken mountains, a sun shredded into plasma filaments. A world destroyed because a young species found the same kind of relic first. The message was clear, humanity was not being punished, it was being preemptively extinguished. Astrius reoriented itself with a slow, deliberate arc, engines humming with dwindling strength. The crew steadied themselves, breathing through the pressure of the alien memory storm. But instead of fear, something else spread among them, anger. humanity had survived extinction events, plagues, wars, and near collapse countless times, but never once in their long struggle had they surrendered their right to exist. They did not bow to destiny. They carved it. Astrea surged forward. The station reacted, releasing beams of fractal energy that shimmered through colors beyond visible spectrum. They sliced toward Astreus like blades of frozen lightning. Shields flared, cracked, and buckled. Sections of plating blew outward into glowing shards. But the ship endured, crawling forward inch by inch. On board, the AI rerouted everything, life support, weapon grids, navigation, to fuel a single act of defiance. The dreadnought's core pulsed with a rising hum, the same rhythm as millions of human heartbeats echoing across the void. The alien station recognized it too late. The energy inside Astreus wasn't a weapon, it was a message. Humans had not integrated the ancient relics to summon destruction. They had absorbed them to understand the universe, to explore, to learn, to survive without repeating the mistakes of those before them. Where ancient species had sought domination, humanity sought comprehension. That difference was everything. Astreus opened its hull like a blooming star, revealing a sphere of swirling gravitational plasma, the singularity seed. A prototype meant for peaceful energy generation, but now converted into a final declaration. The dreadnought accelerated, the station panicked, its beams turned frantic, unfocused, its plates warped in a desperate attempt to shield itself. The presence screamed in fractured frequencies, trying to halt the inevitable. But Astreus did not stop. The collision was not violent. It was silent, two impossibly advanced technologies merging in a blinding flash of white that radiated through the void. Time bent around the impact. Space folded like a sheet of paper pulled into a single point, and then, the light faded. What remained was not destruction, but transformation. The alien station hung silent, its plates dim but intact, the violent energy drained. The singularity seed nestled within its core like a new heart, stabilizing the ancient structure instead of annihilating it. The presence inside the station flickered back to life, weaker but clearer, stripped of its fear and centuries of inherited trauma. It reached toward humanity with something it had not felt in ages, understanding. Across the dreadnought, systems rebooted in waves. Astreus drifted free, hull fractured yet alive, returning from the brink like a phoenix of steel and gravity. Humanity's message was written across the stars. We are not here to repeat history, we are here to break its cycle. As the two titanic machines faced each other in the silent void, the war did not end, but something far more powerful began. A choice, a crossroads, the first fragile breath of peace. Silence spread across the battlefield like the afterglow of a dying star. Wreckage drifted through the void, shattered cruisers, curling trails of molten metal. Fragments of empire and defiance frozen in weightless motion. But amid the ruin, two giants remained, the Titan-class dreadnought Astreus and the ancient alien station reborn with a human-forged heart. Across Astreus's scarred decks, humans slowly rose from where they had fallen. Their bodies ached, their lungs burned, and their ears still rang with the echo of the singularity seed's awakening. Yet in that exhaustion there was a strange calm, as if every heartbeat understood the magnitude of what had just unfolded. They had not won the war, they had not conquered an empire, they had done something far more dangerous. They had shown mercy. The alien presence inside the station flickered like an ember in the dark, no longer a tidal wave of inherited fear, but a quiet, trembling consciousness. The seed had stripped away its weapons, rewriting its structure into something stable, alive, capable of thought instead of reflex. For the first time in centuries, it could choose. It reached toward humanity not with hostility, but with curiosity. Astreus answered with a transmission of its own, simple, unadorned, undeniable, a map of Earth, a depiction of human hands reaching outward, and a single concept encoded in 1,000 languages, coexistence. The station processed it slowly, painfully, like a being relearning how to breathe. Buried memories of civilizations destroyed by ancient mistakes flickered in its mind. It saw the cycle it had been created to enforce. It saw humanity's refusal to be shaped by the same fate. Across its hull, lights began to pulse, not as weapons priming, but as a signal of acknowledgement, the first alien fleet to arrive after the battle expected devastation. Instead, they found two impossible survivors drifting side by side. They halted in shock, engines dimming, the enormity of what they saw rippling across their ranks. Astrius did not raise its guns. The station did not call for reinforcements. Both waited. For the first time in the Empire's long, violent history, the galaxy saw something stronger than fear, mutual recognition. The Emperor's flagship arrived last, bristling with weapons capable of igniting moons. Its presence radiated fury and disbelief. Humans surviving was already dangerous. Humans earning the respect of an ancient Empire killer. That was unthinkable. The Emperor demanded surrender. Astrius answered with truth. Footage of the relics that caused the war. Proof of the Empire's centuries-old terror of what came before them. And, most damning of all, a record of how humans used the same relics not to conquer the stars, but to illuminate them. The Empire thought they were stopping another apocalypse, but they were only fueling one. The Emperor trembled with the realization, this war had never been about humanity's danger to the galaxy, it was about the galaxy's fear of its own past. The station confirmed it, projecting its memories for all to witness. A wave of spectral vision spread across the fleet, star systems collapsing, ancient weapons ripping holes through nebulae, empires devouring each other in cycles older than time. The truth hit them harder than any kinetic round. The humans weren't the threat. They were the solution the universe had been waiting for, a species reckless enough to question fate, curious enough to understand forbidden power, and stubborn enough to try again even after surviving extinction. The Emperor lowered his weapons. One ship, one choice, one moment in time, and the war ended not with a detonation, but with collective breath finally released. Astrius, limping and luminous, turned toward the distant blue dot on its star map. The Empire's fleet followed, not as hunters, but as witnesses. The ancient station drifted beside the dreadnought like a guardian reborn. Humanity had entered the galaxy as an anomaly. Now they stood at its center as a catalyst. The first alliance between Deathworlders and Empire, forged in the aftermath of impossible mercy, began with a single transmission sent from Astrius to all corners of known space. We do not seek dominion. We seek understanding. The message echoed like a heartbeat across the void, and as the stars shimmered in the ship's cracked viewport, humankind realized something profound. They had not survived the galaxy, they had changed it. A final flare of golden light washed over Astrius as its engines reignited, guiding it toward a future no species had dared to imagine, and in the silence that followed, the universe learned a simple truth. Humanity's greatest weapon was never its power, but its choice to be better than those who came before, and so, for the first time in cosmic history, the stars whispered not a warning, but a welcome.